Welcome to Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the place for everything midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
It's your host, Kelly Bailey, and my marketing director of Furnished Finder, Katie Lyon. What do you think about today's episode, Katie?
Hey. Today's episode was so fun. We got to talk about tiny living, which I feel like is like such a hot topic. So interesting. So many things that are like overwhelming and daunting, and Cheryl has solutions to all of it. Like, she has gone through the process and gone through the weeds, and now she's here to help everyone else out who's interested in tiny living but gets overwhelmed. So definitely take a listen. It's pretty cool.
Hi, everyone. We are so happy to be back and have you listening with us. Thank you so much for subscribing and being a part of our show. You make it better. So today we get a glimpse of tiny living at its best. Cheryl Smith is CEO and founder of Beyond Tiny, a company that helps others design their dream tiny houses. She has tiny homes, RVs, and vintage trailers, all available on Furnish Finder, and nurses are raving about them. If you'd like to connect with Cheryl, you can go to www.beyondtiny.com. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm good. Hi. It's so good to be here. So good to see you both.
Tiny living is such a rave. I'm so excited to, just have a tiny section. It's so much fun. So Cheryl and I did an overview of her properties prior to this recording. So she has 8 tiny living spaces in total. 3 tiny homes, 1 studio apartment, 2 motorhomes, and 2 vintage trailers, and all of them are under 300 square feet or less. And Cheryl and I have discussed how important it is to make sure your tiny living spaces are self-sufficient. So that's what we want to talk about first is, Cheryl, how do you make sure each space is ready to go and self-sufficient?
I think the most important thing is you think about what you need in a regular house. You need your kitchen, full bathroom, place to take a shower, place to brush your teeth, get ready for work in the morning, a place to do your laundry, and then a place to relax and sleep. Watch TV, veg out when you're not working. And if you can capture all of those things in a small space, which is what I focus on, then I think you're good.
So what are some of those? Let's talk about the motorhomes first. What do you need for a motorhome to make it self-sufficient?
The good thing about a motorhome is that they generally already come stocked, if you will. You've already got your water heaters, so you've got hot water. You've already got generally a full bathroom, generally a full kitchen. Depending upon the year and make of the motorhome, depends on if you need to like upgrade your TV. So what we do with all of ours is we upgrade the TV and we put in a nice flat screen with surround sound, and then we have our entertainment package, if you will, with Amazon sticks. And I think the biggest thing that our nurses enjoy are everyone gets Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, and then they also have 2 other apps which allow them to get all of their local TVs. Plus, they can get all the movies that are currently in the movie theaters, ESPN, as well as pay-per-view.
Sweet.
Yes.
Sounds like you never have to leave your house.
Exactly. There are nurses that are like, I'm so hooked. I'm so hooked on this. And for some of my long-term, I've had some occupational therapists. I've had 3 now who have been with me 9 months. because they work for the school district. So they're on a contract with the school district. And during the time they stay with me, once they see what I offer, they cancel their Netflix, they cancel their Hulu. I'm like, hey, that's what it's about, enjoy,
You are taking care of those travelers. I love it. So with the RVs, what about like the toilet? How does the toilet work? Because I think you normally have to drive an RV off the site, and I'm sure you probably don't do that. So how do you make sure you're self-sufficient with your toilets and the rest of the setup?
What we do is with everything. Everything is hooked directly into the septic system, whether it's on my property, we have other properties. So it's always hooked into the sewer.
Great.
That's key, because the last thing you want is, your holding tank is only so big for your gray water or your black water. Your black water is your pee and poop. Your gray water is your shower, your kitchen sink, all of that stuff. So when those holding tanks get full, if you don't have a place to dump those, which is only going to take maybe tops 5 days to 7 days, depending upon how much they're using them. Now you have to unhook everything. Now you're taking their home, right?
Right.
Down to the local dump station to dump everything. And that's not pleasant, because they're like, where are you going with my stuff? So, so we have everything hooked up into the sewer as well. And the same thing with our propane. For the motorhomes, they also use propane for the stoves. So we have external propane tanks that are small that we've connected into our main propane tank. And we can bypass our main propane tank so that they're only working off the external. The externals we could throw in the back of the car or the truck, take those down to the local propane place and get them filled and bring them back, again, not disrupting the tenants whatsoever.
That's great.
All right, so I have a question
Yes.
here, because I feel like there has to be a good story of how did you get involved with tiny living? How did this all start? And then also, are all of your properties in one area together? Like, do you have your own little village?
Good question.
Such great questions.
Because you don't just wake up one day and you have tiny homes, right?
No.
Like I know there's a backstory
There's
here.
definitely a backstory, and there's a long mission behind all this.
Well, give us the quick and dirty.
So I fell in love with tiny houses probably 5 or 6 years ago. Being addicted to HGTV and watching all of the shows. I'm like, oh my gosh, these are so cool. I can live there. I just want to live by myself on 10 acres with my shotgun and German Shepherd. Just crazy thoughts. And then I got kind of serious about it. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And I bought a shell. I bought my first tiny house from a young lady up in the Bay Area in California, and which was a good 8-hour drive from where I lived. And she was building this tiny house. She was renting some property. She was going to get into farming and stuff, because I guess the farming out there is really great. And she was living by herself, a young girl, maybe 25, 26. And that was going to be her dream. She was going to live on the property in her tiny house. She was building it. So she had the 4 walls up on a tiny house trailer. And so it was just the framing. And well, then she got involved with this young man. They got engaged. He didn't see the tiny house vision. And so she had to sell. And they were going to go live their own life, whatever that was going to be. So I lucked out. It was a nice shell, even though I had to redo. There's a lot that I had to redo. The flooring had to be redone. The roof, which was, again, just framing. So I redid all of that. Fast forward a year, because it took a year to build that first tiny house. It was me, a contractor, and my plumber, and my electrician. That was it, So my electrician and plumber, of course, they were in and out, just depending upon where we were in the build. And then it was done, and it was beautiful, and I loved it, and it was fantastic. And I got scared. I was like, okay, I'm going to Airbnb it. No, people are going to come in. They're going to ruin my tiny house. I'm going to be so sad.
And did you have personal land that you were putting this on?
Yes. So this
Okay.
particular one is on my property, on a piece of concrete that I had put there years prior when my daughter was playing basketball. We put a basketball court in the backyard,
Okay.
20 by 30 slab. So it just was sitting there because, of course, she's grown now out of the house. And so it was just a perfect space for it. And I was just nervous. I was just so scared to rent it. And so again, for 3 months it sat there. And then one of my cousins said, have you thought about renting to travel nurses? I was like, oh, boom, light bulb. And so I started researching where do travel nurses find housing, and Furnished Finder kept popping up. And I listed it, and within 3 days it was rented.
Wow.
And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
This is cool. So I'm like, I got to do this again. So then built another one. Then I got into vintage trailers. That was a whole nother animal because vintage trailers, your walls are super thin. So your framing is different than a tiny house when you can actually use 2x4s. And you're not worried that your screw's going to go through the outside because your wall's only this thin, It was just, it was different, but I loved it too. And so I have 3 on my property here. And then I manage a couple of others, and then I have the other ones that are on another property that we have. And that's where the motorhomes are over there. And then we actually put in place another RV spot, if you will, on that same property because I had a nurse who was staying with us. She stayed in 2 of our properties because she saw the builds going on and she's like, oh, I like that one. I want to stay in that one next. And so when that one would be done, she'd jump over that one.
Oh, how fun.
She bought a small RV while she was with us. And for 4 months, she hired my contractor and she redid the entire inside. So we built an RV station, if you will, where she had her own hookup, water, and sewer on that same property. So I still have that as well. Like if I had a nurse who said, hey, I'm traveling with my own RV, do you have a place for me? Yeah, we do. And they could come and stay. So I hope that answered your question.
That does. Yeah, well, I know that with tiny living, like a lot of people, it's a big first hurdle is where am I going to put this thing? Because there are, if you don't like regulations and policies, and like you said, you have to have the proper hookups and stuff. So, I mean, I can only imagine that stops a lot of people right in their tracks.
I think people just get scared and they don't know where to start. And that's, people that have called me and talked to me or stopped me in Lowe's or Home Depot, well, how did you get started? What did you do? When you get through that initial fear, like you said, I think then it's not so scary,
So is that where you saw the opportunity to be able to help others kind of past that overwhelm and fear? Is like, okay, I'm going to step in.
Yes.
And begin this business of helping others do what I've done.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I've had people come take tours of the property because they want to see, like, how are you hooked up? What is your sewer system like?
Right.
And then I'm huge on taking photos during builds. So I'm able to show people pictures of the trenches and the dirt where so they can see, like, what we were connecting things to and why one sump pump is better than another sump pump and all of those things, because not all are the same and not all needs are equal depending upon what your plumbing situation is in your either tiny house, your trailer, whatever it might be. And those things are really crucial at the beginning of the build. You have to know your way forward before you get started. And that was, I made so many mistakes on my first build because I didn't know,
Right.
Um, so for those that are already interested in tiny house living and they're like, yes, I want to take my first step. Can you give them an idea of, I think it took you a year to set up your first one. What do the costs look like for building a tiny house, setting up the water, the electric, the plumbing? What does that look like cost-wise and time-wise?
I think you can go, depending upon the size that you want, depending upon if you find one that's already somewhat started, not finished by
Right.
by a long shot. Um, I would say anywhere from 30 to 80,000, depending upon what you're looking to do. When the interest rates were better, I helped a couple of people who were able to take advantage of the equity in their home. They pulled equity out.
Mm-hmm.
They got a super low interest rate, when interest rates were like 3.1, 3.2, and they used that equity and put a tiny house in their backyard and started renting it,
That's awesome.
which
That's so
Nice.
awesome.
was great. It's passive income. It's money while you sleep, because
Right.
even though technically you can make more money doing the Airbnb thing, because you can charge more per night. But for the people like me who I have like a million other things going on, I need something that can just be functional in the background. And if I know that everything that I'm providing is what a nurse or another short-term tenant is looking for, it's kind of hands off. The only time
Right.
I hear from them is, hey, all of a sudden Netflix isn't working. What's the password? I'll text them.
Right.
But other than that, it's kind of, it's self-sufficient and they love it.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
And the other thing is we make everything very luxurious. It's not just about the build itself. So it's all about your outdoor living space too, especially
Smart.
in tiny spaces. They want to get outside. They want to smell the fresh air, and barbecue. They all have their own private barbecue. They all have their own private, awning and seating area. Two of them have private jacuzzis. One has a jacuzzi and a sauna.
That's so cool.
Just so they can feel like luxurious while they're working. And one of the tiny houses has a tenant here from Boeing. So I've just started getting into other types of travelers other than just nurses, and she's here on an 18-month assignment from Washington
Wow.
State. Yeah, but she loves it. She's in the jacuzzi. She's
That's my spot. I'd be in there.
right. But that's what it's about. It's about people being comfortable.
I think my last question for the, making everything self-sufficient portion of it is, I believe you've tried a large variety of washer and dryers. So for those that, we have a cottage in our Temple house, and that's one thing it doesn't have yet that I'm looking to add. So which ones have you found are not very efficient, and which ones are great that, your travelers have been impressed by?
So the convenience of a self, how do I say it? A washer dryer combo. So it's one washing machine that washes your clothes, then it changes to a drying cycle in the same machine and it dries your clothes. That machine is very good because it's compact, sort of. It's not huge, but it's not super small. And it dries everything for you. Of course, you can't do like sheets and things like that, but for your clothes and whatnot, it's no problem. So for those units that have that, I just tell my tenants, when you're ready to wash your sheets, just give them to me and I'll just wash them in the house, give them back to you. They're like, okay, thanks, no problem. And that is good. So I learned from a different nurse who stayed in one of my other trailers and I had a different washing machine that's supposed to have a spin dry. So For any of you looking at washing machines and you're reading the descriptions, all of them will say, spin dry function. That's really close to being dry. It takes no time to take your clothes out and then you just hang them up. What I have in the showers of my travel trailers and my vintage trailer is like a retractable clothesline that goes in the shower. So when they take their stuff out of that washing machine, they just hang it up and it's dry within no time. So the nurses who have said they use the other washing machine that I first talked about, they said the clothes come out kind of wrinkled, even though it's drying them, and they might not be totally dry. But the ones who use the other, which is, by the way, way cheaper, the other washing machine that does the spin dry, the clothes are like, they don't even have to use an iron because they just hang perfectly.
Right.
So I said all that to say, if you're trying to be trendy and modern and all of that, people are like, ooh, it does both. I mean, if you want to spend the extra money, and these things are $1,400, $1,500, they're not cheap.
Okay.
Versus $200, and then doing a retractable clothesline, and you get a retractable clothesline that looks nice. Don't get one that looks like, it came off your brother's farm, but something that's, like nice nickel finish. You can get them for $20-$30 on Amazon, and you use that system. Equally as trendy, equally as functional, and you have tenants who are happy.
Great, thank you for that feedback.
Yes. Oh, one more thing on that. Let me just give you that. Those washing machines, let me preface it with this, are generally supposed to be hooked up into a sink. Okay, so there's like a fitting on the back so that when you turn on your faucet on the sink, that's how it gets water to that washing machine. We did not do it that way. We actually added to our plumbing system, and we used a shower handle. The ones that like go back and forth, and then left to right for hot and cold. That's what we did. We mounted it on the wall, so then that way you're not moving your washing machine to the shower, hooking it up to a faucet. So this way it has its own little station, and you just use the shower nozzle, and it worked brilliantly. It was a great retrofit solution, and the nurses love it.
And
awesome.
I think Cheryl has the links for that one, the one that is more cost efficient, that we can put in the show notes. I've already decided I'm going to buy one for my tiny house. It's very exciting, and I have the perfect space for it. So thank you for that feedback, Cheryl.
Absolutely.
Katie, what would you like to talk about next?
Well, I would love to dive more into how you help others design and prep and kind of get into the tiny living. So Kelly let me know that you've come up with some original floor plans and that you like to kind of cater those to the individual. So I'd love if maybe you and Kelly can do a little bit of a role play here, and Kelly, you can let's say Kelly's ready for a tiny house.
I'm ready for one.
She's ready. She wants to have it, for a midterm rental, for travel nurses, traveling professionals. She is ready. So give us the Cliff Notes version, take us through the process, 30,000 foot view, and let's see how this works. Because I'm super curious, because I definitely fall in the bank of intrigued, confused. It's like, I'm not going to lie. Like, my husband and I, we got an investment property in June, and we started by looking at tiny homes. And as soon as I ran into permitting, sewer, water, I was like, yeah, I'm out. Too much.
It's an unknown.
It is.
And it felt like too big of a hurdle to overcome. Especially when I did it, I was brand new, right? I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Like,
right.
I'm immediately out. So walk us through. Like, let's find Kelly her tiny house.
Okay. I'm excited. All right. So tell me, Kelly, you're interested in tiny homes. What are you looking for exactly? How big, how small, where do you want to put it? And then we'll go from there.
Well, we've had the privilege of staying in a few tiny house Airbnbs for the experience,
Okay.
and I find it crazy that my husband is 6'5", but he loves tiny houses.
That's awesome.
It's just a unique scenario. So I know that for the bedroom, it would need to be one you can walk around so that you're not, bumping your head on one of those vaulted ceilings or something. Space-wise, we have an acre and a half in Belton that has a home on it currently. And I think at this point, we probably will add a garage conversion some point down the road because it doesn't have a garage, so it'd be a good feature. But there's plenty of space, and the land next to it has been vacant for 2 years now. We might, figure out who owns that land and ask, if they want to sell. So let's just say we've got land for a tiny house. It has a well and septic.
Okay. Sounds good. So the conversion for the garage, is that going to be for cars actually, or you're talking about converting it to like a studio?
Studio and at least a 2-car garage for our boat and for a car as well, or storage.
Okay. Well, good news is, let me first start with the fact that it already has a house on it. When it has a house on it, you're able to put in at least 1,200 square feet. You're able to add an ADU, accessory dwelling
Oh,
unit.
really?
Yes.
To the septic?
To the property without
okay.
getting special permits and all of that. You're able to do that.
Nice.
And with the tiny house, though, that's on wheels, you don't run into or a travel trailer or a motorhome, you don't run into the permitting issues because it's on wheels. So it's not considered a permanent structure. It can be moved.
Okay.
So if you get some crazy inspector who's like, you didn't permit this isn't supposed to be here, you're like, okay, cool. And you drive it off your lot and you're done. And so they don't really mess with you so much. So that's number one. So the first thing that we would do, again, since you already have a house that's there, is you can run your hot and cold water. You can run lines underground from your house, either tapped directly into your water heater in the house or into, depending on where you're placing that tiny house, it could come off of your kitchen sink, again, underground, bathroom, sink, shower, depending upon, again, where everything is placed. Okay, so those are your options for getting water to your tiny house. Then your sewer. You can find where the sewer out is on your house, and then you can run piping from the back of your tiny house into wherever your sewer out is, going to the house that's going out to your septic.
So if my septic's on the back left, would it be most efficient to have the tiny house on the back left, or it would just take more plumbing? Does it need to be uphill or it can be downhill? Does it matter?
Rise to run is always really important. If you can get a little downward slope, that's great. If not, are you going to be using a composting toilet or no?
I don't know. I haven't researched that.
Okay.
What's the benefit?
Okay, so let's say you're not using a composting toilet and it's just going to be a good old regular flushing toilet, pee, poop, go down there, life is good. Okay.
Sounds good.
So you would need a sump pump down in the ground that has a grinder at the bottom. And the grinder
sounds very aggressive. I'm not gonna lie. A grinder.
Yes, it's a grinder.
Sounds what? Aggressive?
Aggressive.
Hey, there's a lot of poop. Okay.
I was not prepared for this discussion today.
It's part of life.
I mean, how much of your business is talking about poop?
It's a major part because
it is. I mean, it's a big hurdle.
Yes, because the last thing you want is a tenant calling you saying my toilet is clogged, right? Yes. So your grinder grinds up your poop, and it also grinds up your toilet paper, and then it makes the slush, if you will. And then when that sump pump, when the level gets high enough, just like in a toilet, that water turns on that float, right? And whoosh, it pushes all of that liquid which is also your shower water, your water from your kitchen sink, all of that, through that 4-inch pipe, black pipe, all the way out to where your sewer's hooked up. So depending upon the more plumbing that, the further away you are from that out of the house where that sewer's going to hook up, the more money you're going to spend in digging trenches and in supplies.
Okay, so that was my next question here is we're just on this utility side, right? Plumbing, running electric, things like that. What are we talking for Kelly ballpark to just get her tiny house, her imaginary tiny house, water, a poop grinder, some electric. What are we talking here? Is this like a $2,000 project? Is this like a $20,000 utility issue?
We'll say closer to $8,000 for your plumbing. Okay. So and I'm talking plumbing on the inside also, running your plumbing lines, your washing machine, your sinks, your showers, that all connect underneath. And then the way we do the tiny houses is we do a regular out, almost like you're going to an RV park, with the same kind of an out with a little valve that shuts everything off or stops everything in case there's a leak. Shut-off valves are crucial. Anyone who's listening, don't try to save $50 and tell your plumber not to put on a shut-off valve. Put on a shut-off valve. Because if something happens, you don't want to disconnect water if it's hooked up to your house, to your whole house, just because there's a leak in the tiny house.
Right.
So have a shut-off valve. It's worth it. It's worth the $50 or $75 that your plumber's going to charge you.
Now, what about electric? Are you running that off the main house as well?
Yeah. So you tie in.
Okay.
So the way we do it is we tie into our regular main box, but then the tiny house or the trailer, the vintage trailer, they each have their own breaker boxes also. So I can shut power.
That's nice.
Power off just to one of the trailers, or I can shut off power just to the tiny house. And then inside the tiny house, also in that breaker box is like the breaker for the electric stove, or the breaker where all of my outside stuff is for the jacuzzi, stuff like that. So those are the setup pieces when you're thinking about, Kelly, putting your tiny house in your backyard for placement, and thinking about the cost. How close can you get to the water source? How close can you get to if you have a sewer out and your breaker box is all on the same side of the house, it's kind of a no-brainer, because it's going to cost you so much less in material if you don't have to run electric cables 200 feet, and you only have to run them 50 feet.
I think I have my spot in mind.
Okay.
Of where it would go. What about layout? How would I choose a layout for my 6'5" husband and myself?
Vaulted
being 5'5".
So let me ask you: is this going to be for you guys or for tenants in mind, or both?
Both. Our business model is we want to set something up that we can live in if we want, or have someone else live in if we choose to move to a different home.
Okay. Do you have pets?
Yes, a dog.
So is Fido going to be living in the tiny house too?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any special?
There's Fido now.
Fido's
excited.
Man,
Fido's ready.
Timing, right?
Fido's so excited.
Like,
my dog's looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know why they're barking. Now, what about any special hobbies or anything that you want to incorporate?
She needs a podcast area.
A podcast
That's
area.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, work from home. We both work from home. So a good, having 2 work from home type setups in 300 square feet.
Ooh, it sounds like you're not a good candidate for tiny. So actually, Kelly just needs a good outdoor space.
We do love outdoors. We spend a lot of time outdoors, and if we can have the doors open, we open them. And this is actually good timing because we woke up at 3 a.m. last night to the sound of a cat. We don't have a cat.
Oh,
And we both sat up in bed. We're like, that's a cat. And we have a neighbor cat called King Louie that likes to kind of think every family's his family.
right.
And so somehow in the middle of the day yesterday, he snuck in and then he's in our bedroom at 3 a.m. So it was hilarious.
Oh my gosh. He's like,
So I'd say, yeah, work from home space, love outside, outdoor living, and the more natural light, the better.
okay, so lots of windows. Do you want a loft or do you not want a loft?
It doesn't matter. We would like guests to be able to stay.
Okay.
This is getting big.
Kelly would like a 3,000 square foot house in her tiny house.
And then let's do an area. We'll do this. We'll do 2 lofts, one on each side, because the second loft adjacent from where your bedroom would be on the other loft, we could have for your creative juices to flow.
Okay.
Like almost like a feng shui area. You could do podcasts up there. You could design it how you want to with, you could do a green screen up there. Either have it to where you're sitting at a desk or like sitting on the floor, comfy, cozy, doing podcasts like that. Not so prim and proper, no office type setting like I'm in, but something more casual we could do in that area, which also then sets for like a reading area. It also sets for a place to ponder and think about, your next podcast or, what your next step is in life, just a fun place.
I like that.
And then at the bottom, also we can add a place for the dog, build a closet out, and then if you raise the closet, then you have storage underneath. But what we can do is we'll open up that space for a dog bed. So the dog.
Oh, cute. Fido will be so happy.
Yes. And then you underneath that, so your dog bed would come up about probably 7 inches, let's say. And then they have space to lay, but that 7 inches is a drawer that's retractable where you have your food and water for the dog.
Love it.
And then that way it's out of the way because space is optimal in a tiny house. Every little ounce counts. Downstairs, pull out bed or a couch that turns into a bed, however you want to do it. There's so many options. If you want one that turns into a bed that's not already set up as like a hide-a-bed, then it's about how you want to build it based on the space that you want.
Are those comfortable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have one that there's actually 4 separate cushions that create this bed, but to keep from feeling this the where the pillows meet, we put a 3-inch memory foam mattress on the top. So it makes it a lot more comfortable. So we have an outside storage area. So we roll up that memory foam unless we have a tenant, and keep it out there unless we have a tenant who wants that. And then I'll show them how to make the living room area into that bed. We'll pull out the memory foam and then they're like, wow. And then sometimes they say, we're just going to stay down here instead of going up and down the stairs to the loft. Okay, whatever you want to do.
All right, so Cheryl, I've got 2 questions that come to mind here.
Yes.
First of all, do you have like standard floor plans in your head that you're kind of picking through, or are floor plans customized? And second, how much roughly should Kelly be budgeting for her husband, and Fido's imaginary tiny home?
Okay.
And guests.
And guests. I do have 7 floor plans that are actually done and designed, which can be
That's awesome.
Customized to the person's liking.
But you've got the base ready to go.
Yes.
That's huge.
And it's based on what they want. Just like I'm talking with Kelly, what are your things? Are you a music person? Do we need to add a recording studio to one?
Right.
Are you
Right.
a cat person? Do we need catwalks around the top, and trees so that cats can climb?
Right.
It's just those are the biggest things, because I think when people think of a tiny house, they don't know where to start. They don't know.
Right.
They think functionally, I need a bathroom, I need a washing machine, I need a place to cook, and that's fine, but it's very sterile. There's no
Right.
warm and fuzzy to any of that. There's nothing that makes it about you and who are you as a
Right.
person. If I was doing this for my daughter who, is into the herbs, like I was telling you, and growing, and doing teas and stuff, she'd want an herb wall garden or something,
Right.
because that's her personality. And so that's why it's really important when I sit down with people to know, what are you looking for? Who are you as a person? And let's capture those things in your living space. The other thing, I'm going to come back to your last question, but the other thing I wanted to tell Kelly too about the natural light. Another thing that really is nice in a tiny house are French doors, because they can open wide and you can get that fresh morning air or evening air, whichever the case may be. And it just, whether you put like those invisible screens, that have the magnet down the middle, you can, whatever you want to do with those. But they just add so much light and beauty to the inside of a tiny house. They're amazing. But
I love French doors.
Me too. They're just, they're beautiful. The other thing, your last question, budget-wise, Kelly, how big do you want your tiny house? How long do you want it to be? Generally, they're 8 feet by whatever you think. Are you looking at?
If it's one that needs to be on, you mentioned having it on a trailer where you can move it from property to property. That wouldn't be a bad idea for us, because the home, we bought it knowing that we'll probably only own it 5 to 10 years, as it may be developed into a commercial area. The Belton area is already really close to bordering our street. It's on a main road, so it's likely that down the road we might be surrounded by grocery stores and things like that, potentially.
Right.
We don't know for sure. So on a what size does it need to be on a trailer? What's the maximum?
You could go 30 feet easily.
Oh, okay.
So, which is good size. I mean, I have the person I was telling about from Boeing staying for 18 months. The one she's in is only 20 feet.
Okay.
8 by 20 with a queen size loft. So it's 205 square feet. And it's plenty spacious for her. She said it feels huge. So for the things that you want, especially making sure you and your husband both have adequate space to work, where you're not on top of each other, so you're not waiting for the plug on the side of the wall so you can do your work.
Right.
I would say anywhere from 24 to 30 would be.
And then we would just keep in mind what the maximum weight is that our truck can pull,
Yes.
if we needed to move it, which I think is like 9,000 pounds or something.
Yes.
But this has been so informative, talking about the what kind of layout we would have, how to start with your electric and your plumbing, etc. So Cheryl, if I or someone else don't want to do it alone and would like to have someone walking us through the process, we're going to give you the floor to kind of let people know, how should they get a hold of you? What does the process look like if they want to talk to you or hire you to be their tiny living consultant?
They can reach me on my website, which is beyondtiny.com. And just it'll say on there, message me or something like that for a free consultation. Just reach out to me that way. I'd love to talk to you. If you're close by, I'll come to your property. We can do stuff. I've done some FaceTime, Zoom things too with people, walking around their property to see what they have. So, we can make it work for sure.
Love it.
Love it.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you. So let's see. Typically, we would transition into landlord logistics now. I think there's no reason not to. If you only wanted to hear about the tiny house portion, then, feel free to go ahead and leave a comment and you can stop listening now. But we've got some great extra stuff we can cover of how does Cheryl take care of her traveling nurses in her tiny houses, and what are her favorite Furnished Finder and KeyCheck features that she's found value out of. So stay tuned if you want to hear the rest of this portion. And we will jump into landlord logistics now. So one thing that you said, Cheryl, on your website is that initially you thought you would want to do Airbnb, but you got a little nervous and you weren't certain about it. And then you heard about traveling professionals and you found that was a huge success and that you needed more tinies in your area. So why did your market specifically, and why don't you let everyone know what market you're in case they have any interest in investing in your area as well?
I think, well, I love Furnished Finder. Let me just say that. It's made life so simple, and I've had great experience with every tenant I've ever had. So, um, I think in my area in particular, there's such a need for private housing, for private spaces. Um, I'm big on. I personally don't have shared spaces because I think about what I would want, and I'm the kind of person, especially the older I get, I just want to come home and just put my pajamas on, lay on the couch, watch TV, maybe eat a bowl of cereal, maybe cook a full course meal, and I think that's just one thing that I love to do is just make sure that their personal space is everything that they could need and want, and try to create almost like a vacation feel for them while they're away. And I think that's why, you know, they love the spaces so much. And, and I'm super communicative. If they have an issue, I'm not waiting 2 or 3 days. I handle it immediately.
That's great. And as far as ROI, how valuable has it been using tiny living as part of your investment strategy? What's your return on investment?
It's huge because I'm never not with a tenant. All of our rentals. I have someone that she messaged me yesterday. She's one of my tenants. She's a returning tenant, and she has someone who needs a place from January through May, and I'm fully booked.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a coworker of hers, and so the need is still there. So my return on investment is 100%. I stay booked. I mean, are you looking for numbers? Are you looking?
Yeah, let's talk numbers.
So I would say, we'll just say the first tiny house when we finished was 75,000, and I've been renting it. I haven't even done the numbers. It's funny. I've been renting it. I rent for 1,500 a month on that particular unit, and it's everything is included naturally, as you know.
Right.
And so 1,500. I can do the math if you want me to. Oh, my phone's off. Okay.
Well, I think you had mentioned you probably on our intro call that you think it's about 90% profit
Yes.
and 10% expenses.
Yes.
So that 1,500, you're keeping about 90% of it in your
Correct.
utilities, your electricity. You have 3 on solar, so about 10% it comes out of that profit, which is not much at all.
No, it's
Right.
really not. And I think being on solar helps, and
Mhm.
then with our entertainment package,
Mhm.
it's a one. We pay, for those of you who want to know more about this, let me know, because I can give you the hookup. But we pay 170 a month, and that covers all of our units, and it covers our whole house here, and we
Oh,
have
wow.
5 4 TVs in the house also, and then 8 additional TVs on at different locations. So it just was so smart for us to get rid of cable, your traditional
Mhm.
Right.
cable, and do it this way because it was just very, very beneficial.
Nice.
Yeah. So 90-10 or 85-15, either way.
Love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I think, Cheryl, our last question to kind of wrap up the landlord logistics section is tell us your favorite parts about Furnished Finder and KeyCheck and how they have really served your business and help you to reach your goals.
Making the process easy. Furnished Finder making the process easy has been huge for me because when I first listed it, again, me being so nervous and scared, having that first tenant, I saw how simple it was. And I think, I've seen it evolve, and I've seen, where adding the house rules, adding, the tenant screening, things that have changed, have made it so simple for me. And I just recommend it so much to other people because you're getting a quality tenant. You're not getting someone that they're bouncing around from place to place, not sure the direction in life, but these are professionals, and it doesn't mean that every professional is smart and this and trustworthy. But for me, 99.9% of every person that I've dealt with has been
Right.
fantastic. And
And that's what the tenant screenings are for as well, to make sure you
yes,
are getting that professional in your home.
Right.
absolutely. So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it for anyone going into short-term rentals.
Awesome. Well,
Love
Cheryl,
it.
we so appreciate you giving us time today to be on the show. Anyone else
Likewise.
that's yeah, awesome. Thank you. Anyone else that's interested in sharing their story, we just love getting to share the everyday landlord story of how Furnished Finder has been a part of your business and, just all the different styles of hosting that are out there. So this tiny living episode was really special to so many people, I'm sure, that have that tiny dream. So, if you are loving our show, please do subscribe, share it with your friends, and if you want to know more from Cheryl or have any certain topics that you want to discuss, then you can comment on YouTube. So, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to our next episode every Tuesday.